Hey there, this is Dr. Nicole and Dr. Nick from Integrative Wellness Group in Belmar, New Jersey. We are really excited to be kicking off our series called Reset Your Mindset. So we're going to be diving deep into a couple topics today in relation to mindset, but also just giving you a general overview as to what mindset is, how it impacts you, how it impacts your thoughts, how it impacts your words, but also how you can start to implement some changes in order to set really effective goals and intentions for your new year. So I will allow Dr. Nick to introduce himself and give you a little background about why he's so passionate about mindset.
Well, hello everyone, and I want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dr. Nicole is completely correct. Mindset is one of my most passionate things. Stems back to ever since I was a childhood, growing up in a very athletic and competitive family. I always wanted to perform at my highest level, and that really drove me into understanding and almost like craving a hunger for trying to increase the potential and performance, not only with me, but with other people and with athletics and the mind and the body, which eventually led me to personal training, which led me to becoming a chiropractor. And now my main focus with chiropractic is on the brain. And with the brain part of that, understanding the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and with that mindset. So the biggest thing about mindset is that it really creates everything. Where you are, your reality today is an effect of your mindset. That being said, it's like if you're happy, if you're loving, it's because of your mindset. If you're sad and you're stressed, it's because of your mindset. So your mindset, people always say, it's like, well, is your glass half full or is it a half empty? Mm-hmm. You know, that's a mindset. So I'm excited about tonight and to dive in a little deeper.
Definitely. You know, and it's so interesting that you say that, because I think that where our mindset is at is very influenced by our society. It's influenced by how we have been brought up. It's influenced by our religion. It's influenced by so many outside things that we don't always necessarily even acknowledge. I think that, you know, even the level of commercials that we see in between different things that we watch on TV, you know, all of those different things kind of sit in our subconscious and influence our thoughts. They influence our words. They influence, you know, our day-to-day actions. And it's important to start acknowledging those types of things. And, you know, who do you choose to be around? You know, what are the things that you choose to do activity-wise? You know, do you just sit on and watch the news all the time, which unfortunately nowadays it's just very negative. They're not necessarily always showcasing the celebrations that are happening in the world or within society. A lot of times they're showcasing the violence and gangs and a lot of, you know, negative things. So
it's on standby on the computer, so hold on.
Okay, so I guess we're on standby, so we're just going to give it a second.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if it's like loading.
It says it's live, so
yeah, I think it's live. It's probably just taking a minute.
The webinar, the webinar page is not working. The YouTube page is working.
Okay, great. Okay, so sorry about that. It's always fun, you know, doing things with technology, because it's great that we can reach all of you from the comfort of your own home, but at the same time, sometimes there's glitches. So regardless if you have been able to access the easy webinar or not, this is going to be recorded, and we're going to get this link out to you in case you miss this live broadcast, so that you can watch it on your own time later on.
So can I take off where you were headed?
Yeah, go for it.
So Dr. Nicole is really trying to say, and was saying, that our mindset is programmable. It's been programmed since we were an early child. The way the mind's developed, it's most nourishable between the ages of 0 and 5, and then into our early childhood years. So with that, you know, it's your family, it's definitely church, religions, your spiritual. It's, you know, what's on TV, it's what's on the radio, it's what we see. I mean, we are a product of our environment. So that being forward, we picked the title of this is to reset your mindset, because the awesome thing is right now we're a product of our mindset. And if you want a different end product, we have to change what started that. And, as I've thought about many different things, and I don't want to go on too many tangents, but one of those big things is, what's the normal mindset? And if you look around and what's the norm, you have to look at what's the effect. So we look around and it's like, well, most of Americans are, obese and overweight. One third's obese, 2/3 overweight. The normal is to have cancer and have a disease. It's normal to be depressed. It's normal to be divorced. Relationships with your spouse, with your friends are bad. Relationships with yourself is bad. And unfortunately, it all starts from a mindset. And it's one of the things and why I'm really passionate about mindset, not only about, optimal performance and potential, but it's just to be happier, to live a more congruent lifestyle with, your vision and your goals and achieving those things, and, making a difference not only in your community and the world, but just coming home to a place that you love and enjoy. So that's what gets me going.
And I also think that, sometimes even saying, there's obesity and there's cancer and there's sickness around us, and, how our thoughts can really, impact that, or our mindset impacts that. And really, I think the point that he's trying to make is that we live in a world that we compare. And when most people around us are maybe unhealthy or overweight, if we are healthier or don't weigh as much, then we might say, okay, well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm better than them at least. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're 100% happy with where you are at with your life, with your relationships, with your health, etc. And us coming from the healthcare field and doing what we do on a daily basis, we have just seen that someone can take, tons of supplements, and they can come in and get laser therapy, they can get chiropractic, they can get PT, meaning physical therapy, they can get all of those different things. But when your mindset is a limiting factor, or your mindset is not positive, and your mindset is obsessed with the diagnosis or the condition, it is very hard to progress. It's very hard to get well and finally, live the life that you want to live. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we've really wanted to expand upon, mindset and helping to give you the tools in order to rework the mindset to really start manifesting and creating what you want. So one of the things that, we wanted to kind of focus on today is the power of your thoughts and the power of your words. And they really kind of go hand in hand together. But I really want Dr. Nick to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that, because I think that we can even relate to the example of, if you get up in the morning and, you get out of bed, you don't really want to be getting out of bed because maybe it's 5 a.m, and you get out of bed, you stub your toe, you trip over something, then you're kind of just like, oh, this is going to be a bad day. And typically it ends up being a bad day. It's like one thing after another that happens. And again, it really just comes back to, we set that intention almost. So I'm going to let you kind of run with that and elaborate a little bit more on, the things we, think about, as well as the self-talk that we have. For sure. I think you definitely nailed it on the head when you talked about, manifesting, and not that manifesting is this woo-woo thing, but it's the start of the process. So you talk about mindset being the start of the process of creation. So, at the start of the mindset and that process creation is your belief system. So it's your belief system that creates your thoughts, what we're going to focus on today with, as well as your words, but understanding the power of the process. So it's like, not to get too deep into the process, because we're going to go over that later, but to simplify it, we've probably, and a lot of people that are into this and self-help and self-development have heard of the be, do, have principle. So it's like, if you want to have something, you got to do what it takes to have those things. And if you start with the have,
you go to the doing, what's before that is your state of being. So what that translates into where we're at right now is the beliefs turn into your thoughts, turn into your words, turn into your actions, yada, 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 turns into your destiny. So when you're thinking about your thoughts, they're either going to be positive or negative. I mean, it's pretty black and white. It's kind of like putting a piece of food in your mouth and it's either going to make you healthier or it's going to make you sick. There's really no in between with it. And when you're clear on noticing the thoughts that you have daily, or even in the power of now, when you're focused in the present and you understand that, you know, I'm thinking of, you know, acts of kindness, or I'm thinking right now of fear, and which one of my big things is, you know, fear is actually false evidence appearing real. So it's like, if your focus and your thoughts are in a fear-based, you're not being present to yourself, but you're also, you're actually thinking of creating something that's not going to be beneficial to you in the future. And when you think in stress or you think with fear, those thoughts are going to turn into words. And what those words come out of your mouth is what you watch on the news every day. You know, we're a product of an environment. Nicole says, like, we're programmed. So we're programmed in all aspect of this process. And for the word process, it's not only the words that come out of your mouth, but it's the words that go into your ears. And with that being, both of those things are just as powerful as the other. And that's why it's so important to be really conscious on the actions that you take with the words that you say to people, but as well as the words that you hear. You know, are your friends uplifting you, or are they bringing you down? Is the TV news, is it making you a better person, or is it installing fear and stress in your life? And you carry that over to every aspect of your life, and it brings you to your reality.
And I think that even something that you said, you know, a couple minutes ago, is really just about acknowledgement. And I know this can sound maybe overwhelming to some of you that are listening, thinking like, you know, well, I do have maybe not the best mindset, and I do like to watch the news. I like to keep up with current events, and, you know, and things are stressful. Sometimes things are not amazing, and I can't always be happy and smiley. And that's not really what it's about. At the end of the day, it really comes down to kind of taking this conversation that we are having about mindset and starting to be more aware, more present, and acknowledging when you are either having those negative thoughts or having that negative self-talk. And that's really the first step, essentially. It's not that you have to kind of just walk around with this smile on your face, even if you're not happy, and, you know, put on a show for anyone. It's just a matter of, you know, you wake up and you have that day that you're like, you tripped over something, you fell out of bed, and you're like, this is going to be a bad day. And you just kind of sit back and you go, oh, I did it. I am acknowledging the fact that I am kind of setting this bad intention. Let me flip that. Let me flip that into, this is going to be a good day. You know, I stubbed my toe, no big deal. And you'd be so surprised on how silly that can maybe sound, or how simple that can sound, and how impactful and powerful it can be. Because you are just kind of shifting, you're acknowledging, you're shifting, and you're moving on, which is not always the easiest thing to do.
Can I add to that just a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
So life isn't always, you know, easy going. It's not always beautiful. The roses always aren't blooming. But that being said, you know, you have to take the good with the bad. There's always a balance in life, for a reason. I mean, if we didn't know what sadness was, we wouldn't know how to be happy. So it's just an experience. It's perception. Enjoy both sides of it. You know, it's a part of living, which is a fantastic thing. That being said, later on in this, I'm going to give you some hacks to be able to help you kind of reshape your perception on some of those thought processes. But what I want to say really quick is, yeah, if we are having those things, it honestly does go back to our belief system. You know, it's our beliefs that create our reality. And, you know, it's easy to say that I've done this before. You know, everybody's done law of attraction. You know, The Secret came out, awesome, woohoo, it didn't work. You know, I wish, I prayed, I wanted $1 million, I wanted the perfect, you know, relationship, it didn't work. And that's simply because there's a lot, like, the main attraction, the main manifester is your subconscious mind. And then you have your conscious mind, that your conscious mind's like, oh, I had a crappy thought, I'm gonna switch this over to a positive thing. Woohoo. If your subconscious mind isn't really believing that, guess what? There's going to be an internal civil war, and who's going to win? Your subconscious mind's always stronger than your conscious mind, long term. You know, you can consciously, you know, be in the weeds and fight it out for a long time, but it's very tiring to do that. So the biggest thing is, as this series goes on, we're going to give you a lot of hacks to be able to go and reprogram that subconscious mind so you can have the effects that you want to have in life.
Yeah, and one of the, you know, and I know we've said this before, but just to even reiterate, you know, we have a lot of different things that are impacting our subconscious on a daily basis. And, you know, we unfortunately do live in a very negative world these days. You know, we're constantly being exposed to, you know, sickness, you know, war, violence. It's definitely something that's all around us. If we choose to acknowledge it or not, it still is something that is kind of being programmed within the subconscious. And again, it's not something you can avoid at all costs, but it is just, you can kind of tweak different things about, you know, your current lifestyle that is maybe going to bring a level of something positive into the subconscious. And if that is, you know, having a hobby that is, you know, with other people that have similar interests and similar values with you, and kind of spending some time doing that, and maybe cutting down those hours with the TV. You know, there's definitely simple things that you can utilize, or even, you know, reading a book opposed to watching TV. So there's just kind of little things that you might want to sit back and evaluate about your current lifestyle and see, you know, where is that room that I can maybe add something positive that is really going to kind of benefit me, and also work or help me work more towards the life that I want, and, you know, even the mindset that I want. And that's actually kind of where we want to go next with, you know, this series. It's the beginning of the year, and it's early to, you know, 2016. And I know a lot of us have been setting goals or creating resolutions, and really, you know, wanting maybe something different than we've had in the past few years. If that could be, you know, a different relationship, or a different relationship with our spouse, or it could be a different job, or we want to be healthier, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes when we start to set goals, we don't necessarily always realize how our thoughts and our words can impact that. And that's something that we want to kind of acknowledge with the power of words, because when you set certain goals and say, it's like, I wish I had $1 million, or I want to have $1 million, a lot of times that the way that you phrase that is you're already speaking in the lack of having. And when you speak in the lack of, your subconscious mind knows that. And it says, no, this person doesn't have this. They want it. So there's other powerful ways that you can kind of structure the goals and set intentions for the new year. And I'll kind of let Dr. Nick elaborate a little bit more on that, on how we can be more effective with really achieving and manifesting what we want. If it is, you know, if you do want something different in this new year.
So I'm not going to go crazy on the vocabulary aspect. It's one of my very passionate things, but it's actually a very lengthy discussion. But just to kind of recap what Dr. Nicole was mentioning, so it's like, we're not taught the power of vocabulary, and a lot of times we definitely speak in the lack of. So it's like, anytime we say, I want something, and unfortunately a lot of people, you know, if they're writing down goal cards or this and that, it's like, I want $1 million, or I want a new car, I want this. The word want itself to the subconscious mind means lack of. So to replace that into a word that's going to acknowledge the subconscious mind that's not a lack of is the word desire. So if you're going to write down a goal, it's I desire this, and then of course you want your goals to be SMART. SMART goals is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So it's that's another story for another time. But getting back to what Dr. Nicole was talking about is, if you've made goals for 2016 already, awesome. Unfortunately, most people haven't. So I want to give you a quick tip to be able to realize what you want in life, because it's a lot easier to realize what you don't want, and honestly, use it. So we'll send you out a list to be able to fulfill this, but it's a really easy step, and you just list out everything you don't want in life, and you can go through all the different aspects of your life. You can do it relationship, you can do it with your money, you can do it vocational. You just go through every single process and list out what you don't want in your life, and then the hack is to do the flip and switch. So you take that, you flip it, and you switch it into a positive. So that's a negative turning into a positive. So let's ask Dr. Nicole, what is one thing you don't want in life?
Oh, put me on the spot. I don't want to make excuses that I don't have enough time for my self-care.
Okay, so this is an awesome live event, and this is why we're doing this, because we can make things better. When you're dealing with the subconscious mind and to get results quicker, you want to make it as simple as possible. So in that, she actually had 3 separate things. So let's break it down to one. Let's just talk about if you want the excuses or do you want the time. Let's do
the time.
Okay. So she doesn't want lack of time. What was it?
I guess I don't want to. That's a double negative. But I don't want to not make time for self-care.
Is that a triple negative?
I think it is.
darker. So to switch that into the positive would be
I make time for self-care.
Exactly. So it's a very simple thing, especially having the positive. And we'll talk about this more into the future on the next one. We go into maybe deeper on vocabulary, but you always want to drive a lot of emotion into anything that you do. The more emotion, the more of attraction, and the quicker the results you're going to have in life. So if you're going to say that, you always start with I am. I am tells the subconscious mind exactly who you are, your state of being, and with that, it happens almost that quick. So it would be I am so grateful and excited to
make time for self-care.
Have time.
Have time for self-care. See, we all need work on this. Yeah, it's so interesting because, this is with mindset work. We've been working with a business coach for, I guess, 3 years now, and we have kind of opted to use coaches that have an emphasis on mindset. And, just to kind of give you even a little bit of a story, which I think might be relatable, is, we opened a business in order to help people, to serve people, but also to make a living for ourselves, of course. We wanted to, be able to be rewarded for the service we were providing and make a life for ourselves and eventually our family. And, when we started to dive deeper into mindset, I realized that my mindset around money was very problematic. And I remember, we were working really hard, working so many hours, and I bought a pair of designer shoes. And I remember I put them on and I looked at Nick and I said, I look like a snob. Do I look like a snob? I think I look like a snob. And he was like, no, you're fine. They're nice shoes. You deserve them. And we actually were on our way to our business coach and we told her what came up, and, she kind of broke it down for us, but that had to do with, in my subconscious mind, I equated wealth or someone who had nice things with being a snob. And that is deep rooted to things that I've experienced, you know, in my childhood, growing up, even the things that my parents would say about people who had money. So there were so many things that were programmed within my mind to think that if you had money, you were a snob. And that was such an eye-opener for me that I needed to shift my mindset, because if one of my goals was to have wealth one day, how am I going to ever attain that with that type of mindset? So really, again, it just comes back to the things that the conversations we have with ourselves and the self-talk that we have. And, you know, kind of the same concept with the goals and using that flip and switch technique. This is even something to utilize when those negative thoughts come up, because they will come up. It's not that you're going to be able to shift, you know, overnight. But when that negative self-talk comes up, or even the negative thoughts about others, you know, if you get up and you're getting ready for work and you look in the mirror and you go, oh, I look terrible today, I'm so bloated, you know, you need to flip and switch that immediately to start to reprogram your mindset. And, you know, and even if you say to yourself, I look amazing, I am so skinny, and if you don't believe it, then switch it to something that you believe. Switch it to, I am so grateful that I am getting in shape every single day. You know, because I know that sometimes it's like we were like, okay, yeah, I can shift it into a positive, but you're just like, your subconscious is fighting it so much. And you're like, I don't believe it. I do look fat, or whatever it is for you. And when you shift it into, I am so grateful that I am, you know, getting in shape every day, that is something that can maybe feel better to you or resonate better with you. And it could be so much more powerful to, again, shift you into the mindset of really being able to attract what you truly want.
Woohoo.
Went off on a tangent. So, you know, with the conversation that we just had about the setting of goals, it's really, you know, kind of circling back, it's the power of clarity. If you have goals and say your goal is you want to have $1 million this year, or you want to have $100,000 this year, whatever it is for you, you need to be very clear about that. And being clear, first of all, you need to go back to the conversation about your power of your thoughts and the power of your words and your self-talk. And you need to start the process of, first of all, acknowledging the things that you're saying to yourself. Second of all, you need to start to switch into, you know, switching those words into the positive. You know, no matter how many times a day that negative self-talk or those negative thoughts come up, switch it every single time until it becomes just easy and natural. And then when you start to sit down and get more clear about what you want for 2016, or you want for 3 years from now, be very specific and clear. If you want $1 million, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get there? What are the key things that you want to see differently in your life that are going to help you to attain that goal? So it's not just about setting that one goal. It's really thinking about, you know, what are the things that I can change, or what are the things that I can do differently that will also allow that. So, and like Dr. Nick said, it's not always easy to sit down and say, I want this, or this is what I want, and this is what I want 3 years to look like. Sometimes it is easier to write down what we don't want and then be able to flip that into what we do want. Because again, it kind of goes back to us being surrounded by a lot of negativity, and sometimes it's just easier to think in that mindset. So again, we're working on shifting out of that, but it's a good starting place.
And a lot of times, you know, it's that neuroplasticity of understanding. Neuroplasticity is just like the brain-body connection of understanding, oh, caught myself, negative thought. Oh, caught myself, negative thought. You know, that doesn't occur right away. So what we have to do, and how I started, is I would have a negative thought, and guess what? They all come at the wrong time. So I would carry an index piece of paper in my pocket and a pen, and if I had it, I would just write it down really quick, put it back in, forget about it. And then at the end of the night before I went to bed, which is literally the best time to do your intentions and your affirmations, I would go through and I would flip and switch all those negatives to a positive, read them right before going to bed, have all this positive clarity, and then I'd fall asleep. And guess what? My life is pretty damn good right now.
It takes time, and the last thing that you want to do is stress yourself out about it too. You know, everybody has to start somewhere, but you know, we're definitely going to give you some different exercises that you can do in order to kind of start this process. So once we actually, we're going to take some questions, but also once we finish up after the webinar, you will receive an email, and the email is going to have 2 different exercises that are going to kind of elaborate upon the things that we talked about today. And then after you complete that, and one thing I should say too is, in the process of completing that, you know, be selfish, make that time about you, you know, go to a place that you find to be relaxing. If it's somewhere in your home, if it's going to be a coffee shop, if it's a spa, you know, take that time for yourself and really sit down and try to be very honest with yourself, but also be very clear on, you know, what you want and what you want to change to get there. Because I think that a lot of times we don't take the time for ourselves. And even the conversation that Nick just had with me, it's, you know, the self-care kind of falls to the wayside when you have kids and you own a business, or you have a job and you commute into the city every day. You know, there's a lot of excuses that we can make for it, but it's just, you know, start somewhere, make that time, even if it's a half an hour for yourself, and do the exercises, because they can be so powerful for, you know, really changing the pace of this new year for you. So there's a couple different questions that we received. So we're going to kind of go through and answer these. So feel free to chime in if you're like, I got this. How can I encourage others to use uplifting words around me? That's a really, really good one.
I got this.
Okay, you got it.
It starts with you. You don't push anything on anybody else. You always pull. So when you push something on somebody else, you push them away, whatever it is. If you're pushing health, if you're pushing an idea, pushing never works. So you got to pull, you got to attract them to you. And how that works is you are that first. So if you want somebody else to be more uplifting, you have to be uplifting first. And guess what? Not right away, but over time, they will transition into you. And I guess this is another
or weed themselves out.
Or weed themselves out. And honestly, we're a product of our environment, but when we change, our environment changes as well. I mean, if you constantly try to work on yourself and be a better person, but you don't change your environment, it doesn't work like that. You know, you evolve, you grow, and, you know, so does your entire environment. You know, the friends that you hang out with, some will stay, some will change, you know, every single aspect of life. And, you know, your job might stay the same. You might get promoted. You might change completely different jobs. You may be a completely different career, you know, everything. And that's not to stress you out by any means. It's really just to understand that you can't push something that you don't have control of. And what you do have control of is you. Mm-hmm. So focus on that. And once you really do, and it took me some time too, because, you know, us being in the health industry, it's like we want to save everybody, but we don't save anybody. You know, we allow people that want our services and want to be healthier and want to be happier. They come to us, and then we just share our knowledge. So it's really that attraction, that pulling, that helps, you know, allow people to be around you, to be uplifting.
Mm-hmm. And it's even something that I talk to a lot of my functional medicine clients about, because, you know, they definitely, there's some people are getting on a path to wellness, and then the people around them, you know, it could be jealousy or it could be, you know, other things going on with them, but they go, oh, look at you. Oh, when are you going to eat normal again? Or, oh, why are you doing that? I can't believe you're doing that. That sounds so time consuming. And I always tell them, I'm like, I understand, like, going to barbecues and going to parties can sometimes get stressful when you're doing a program like this. I was like, but you have to understand that you can be such a positive inspiration to others, because if you bring something that is healthy but still tastes awesome, then, you know, people are going to eat it, and they're going to shift their mindset to say, oh wow, I thought, you know, eating healthy had to taste really bad. And I hear that all the time from my clients, and I think it's awesome because they start to inspire others to make healthy changes, and I think that's really rewarding for them.
So yeah, if you're pumped up and you're stoked and you're excited about this mindset, run with it. But don't force your spouse, don't force your friends. Like, they're not there yet. So if you focus on you and you get that, they'll see the effect and they'll be like, oh wow, it's like she's or he's not crazy. Like, I'll check this out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a timely thing, but it's definitely worth it.
Okay, so the next one is, what is the connection between motivation and mindset?
So I would say, unless you want to
go
go.
ahead.
All right. So mindset is like inspiration, and motivation is external. They're both good. I love having both motivation and my inspiration, which is my mindset. When like Dr. Nicole talked about is, clarity. The clearer you are on what you desire in life and who you want to be and who you are, that's inspiration. When you don't have inspiration, you have no clarity. So it starts with really figuring it out yourself, and really understanding how to use your subconscious mind, your mind, to create your reality. So that's inspiration. But guess what? Some days just life sucks. It's the truth. And when that happens, I go to motivation as a little hack. There's tons of things that motivate me. I can go on YouTube and just type in motivation videos, and I get motivated. I'm a very visual person, so I love videos. But with YouTube, you can type in fantastic athletes or amazing videos. You can do that. You can read quotes from leaders. All these things. There's multiple things to motivate you, but unfortunately, motivation is only short term. But it could be enough to get you back to being inspired. So that's what I use motivation for. But definitely, inspiration comes from with you. And that's a lot more powerful than motivation.
But I feel like, what you're saying even just goes back to passion. With all the different books that I've read on business and things like that, the biggest thing that I always gather from these books is that these super, huge companies doing amazing things that have been around for a really, really long time, think like Apple and even Walmart and, Starbucks, these are companies that they're passionate, and the passion from the creators has been passed down to every single employee. And if you stop an employee and you ask them about what is the philosophy of Apple, what is what drives you guys every day, almost any employee can actually answer that, because they've instilled that on their employees. And from there, these people are passionate, they're inspired by the products, and they're passionate about, every single aspect of the products. And that allows them, to be motivated to sell the products. So I think that, the inspiration and passion being similar, and that really is what's going to be the outlet for the motivation as well.
And that actually answers the first question better than, we explained it the first time. It's like, if you're passionate and you're inspired, you're going to encourage others, tremendously.
Yeah. And that actually kind of piggybacks off of the next question with, I'm struggling with my work environment. How do you suggest I bring mindset into my life at work? I think that's a great question. Work environments, especially if you're in a cubicle, you can just be kind of sucked into all the banter and all the gossip. But, with that being said, I think that even just some tools is being able to go into work as a presence, and even simple compliments to others, and being able to kind of even flip and switch if somebody is coming to you with the gossip of the day, or the negative talk of the day. It's almost kind of just stopping it before it goes too far, and it's being able to be like, oh, okay, yeah, well, being able to switch it into a positive, and then moving on from there, so that they don't, because if you go, oh, really, oh, I can't believe that, that's going to allow them to I think go a little bit deeper, and then it kind of just explodes.
Yeah, you never want to feed a fire, and I always say, kill them with kindness. Unfortunately, most people crave love. They're craving, a genuine kindness relationship, and they don't have that. So, that carries over to fire at the workplace, fire this and that. And, a lot of the problems isn't even at work. It might be at home. It might be something else that's carried over, and then, they just blow up. But, I guess the first thing to answer your question is it the work environment that's the problem? Or, do you love what you do? And is that congruent with you? Or is it that you're not loving what you do, and then being at work's creating this bad environment? Because you can be in the perfect environment but not love what you do, and it's not going to be a good situation. So you got to look at both sides of it.
Definitely. Okay, so next question is, I'm in a stressful relationship, and sometimes I get angry with my spouse in front of my children. I want them to have a positive mindset about both of their parents. How can I encourage my children to have a positive daily mindset? So I think this is a really good one. But kind of like what Dr. Nick said before, it definitely starts with you. And if you have a more positive mindset and you speak to your children with more positivity, then that is going to be the ultimate shift. But I grew up in that type of environment of yelling. There was definitely a lot of fighting, and it definitely impacted me with how I handled my own relationships when I got older. Thinking that was the norm. So it's really a matter of shifting it so that it doesn't become the norm. So my personal experience with even just, we're together, if anybody didn't know, but it's learning about how to communicate with your spouse the most efficiently. So this is something that we're going to dive into our later modules. But one of the things that you can honestly go online and do it today. It's called the 5 Languages of Love. And it's amazing because you just do a survey, and as you do the survey, it allows you to know more about how you best receive love and receive appreciation. And then if you have your spouse do it as well, it allows you guys to have a better understanding of how you feel the most loved and the most appreciated. And then that can be an outlet for better communication as well. And just even another quick tip with that is you have to consider, and sometimes this takes a little bit to really see and understand, but everybody takes information differently. Some people, you can talk to them and they're going to hear you and they're going to take it and they're going to be able to give you feedback. And then there's other people that are like, just kidding, not right now. And I'm that person. So for him, he would come to me and say, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. And I would almost get mad and I would yell at him. And what I was realizing is like, that just doesn't work for me. If he wrote it down on paper and said, here you go, this is what we're doing today, I'm like, okay, thanks. So it's also kind of thinking about, how does your loved one best perceive information so that you can just communicate with them so you can be heard, and that they can also not feel I was going to say threatened or attacked or even annoyed, I guess you can say. So it's learning a little bit more about each other through the 5 languages of love, but also being more conscious and aware of how they best receive information.
So just piggybacking that and kind of doing a short story version of what Dr. Nicole said is, start with you. Write down everything that you don't like about your relationship, and even not only about your relationship, but about how you deal with stressful situations, and do the flip and switch on that, work with that, and then realize when those things pop up to subconsciously, before saying anything, say that positive statement that you wrote out. And then going through the 5 languages of love and understanding how to best communicate, whether it's verbally, whether it's, writing something down, or even stepping back and saying, I love you. Let's talk about this when there's not so much fire on it. But yeah, kids they soak everything up. We don't
sponges.
We don't have any kids yet. But it's one of those things that, like we talked about earlier, it's like they're being programmed by everything, and you want to do your best job to create and allow them to perceive the world well.
Definitely. Okay,
We have
so
time for one more.
we got one more. I feel that I have failed my goals for the year, increasing physical activity, changes in a beauty regimen, eating more organic. I want to revamp them and give them another shot. How should I do that? So really just go back to what we talked about. Write down exactly what's not working and even get more in detail about why you maybe feel like, and first of all, you didn't fail. It's the beginning of the year. You're good. You have plenty of months to get back on track.
I think they're talking about last year.
Oh, okay. Regardless, the biggest thing is if you fall off something, as long as you get back on. But also, if there's certain things that came up that didn't really either allow you or didn't motivate you or inspire you to make those changes, those are really those things that you need to write down when you're writing down what's not working for you or things that you don't want. So don't just maybe go into like the I want more physical activity. It's like, what are some of the things that maybe are limiting that, and be a little bit more clear, be a little bit more specific, and then that's going to allow you to set more powerful goals. But using the exercise we're going to send to you guys in an email is going to be really great for you to sit down and really start to execute that.
And we didn't have it set up, but we can either do one of two things. Just give us feedback. I can either send out how to actually properly write goals, the smart way, the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. But also a big thing with that, Dr. Nicole is saying, is if you had those goals down, they didn't happen, it's because there wasn't enough emotional tie to really want to achieve those things. So, I mean, you can write down tons of goals, but if you don't have any emotion towards them, and if also you can have emotion, but if they're not high on your value list, you're not going to care enough to really attain it. So two things.
There's always two things with Nick, by the way. Always.
One of my favorite books on values is called The Values Factor by John D. Martini. He's a human behavioral specialist. So you can figure out what your top values are so you can write and have goals that are in alignment with that so you will achieve them. But also another thing that he really recommends is after you write those goals is to really write down at least 200 things why you want to attain that goal. And by doing that, you really will create enough emotional tie to that, why you desire that. And you can also do the opposite. 200 reasons if you don't achieve that, how that will impact your life. So if you do 200 reasons doing this, what that will do for you, and 200 reasons by not doing that, what that will do for you, that will create a huge emotional tie, and you'll achieve it this year.
I think that's great. The Values Factor is an amazing book, so we definitely recommend for everyone to check that out. So, well, we thank you so much. We're going to wrap up here. Keep your eye out for our email to kind of recap some of the different exercises and resources that we talked about today. Our next module that we're going to be doing is really going to be diving more into improving our self-talk as well as improving our vocabulary, which obviously goes hand in hand with each other. So I know we kind of scratched the surface a little bit with that today, but we're really going to dive deeper with, how to just improve that self-talk and even using the right words to manifest what we really want. So we really look forward to seeing you next month. We are going to keep this series rolling on the first Thursday of every month, and we will be doing the live webinar, so you'll be able to ask questions and pick our brains a little bit. So we thank you so much for being part of this, and if anybody does have any other questions and in relation to what we do as practitioners, with functional medicine or even the chiropractic approach that we take, just know that you can always set up a strategy call with our wellness coordinator. Her name is Brooke, and you will also have that in your email as well. So feel free to kind of set up a time if you want to learn anything more about Integrative Wellness Group and what we do here. So we thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.